Everybody, welcome back to the Hill Report, which is part of TarHeal247.com. I am TarHeal247.com publisher Andrew Jones. He is TarHeal247 director of basketball recruiting and analyst, Mr. David Sisk, longtime college AAU and high school coach, that is, Mr. David Sisk. And David, we are here to discuss Luca Bogavatz, the European guard from North Carolina, came over from Montenegro. He played in the Adriatic League, which is a pretty good league, played there the last couple of years. Luca, as of this recording, still has not been cleared by the NCAA. The expectation by UNC's program, he will be cleared. They just don't have any idea, don't know when. They've been given no indication of when this will happen. It could be any minute, literally any minute. So if he has not been cleared by the time we record this, I don't think Carolina fans should worry too much. At some point he will be. Season starts in less than 3 weeks. So the NCAA has a tendency of rushing these things at the last minute. There are other players around the country that have not been cleared yet at all. But David, he is a part of the program. We will see him next Friday night when I'm in Salt Lake City for the exhibition. We will see him against Winston-Salem State and that exhibition for sure. And hopefully, for everyone's sake, he's on the floor November 3rd when the Tar Heels open the season against Central Arkansas. And before I go any further, make sure if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. Please share this video. Please tell your Carolina Tar Heel friends about us and about our website, Tar Heel 24/7, the largest site covering North Carolina athletics with a wildly passionate message board that has been a thrill getting to experience here the last 2.5 months. So, David, your initial thoughts on Luca Bogavatz, what kind of player you think he's going to be for the Tar Heels, and something that jumps out about him, about his game to you?
Well, the same thing that probably jumps out to me, jumps out to everybody. He's a sniper.
Yeah.
And the three-point shot, I think he only went 4 for 11 in the blue-white exhibition, but every shot that he went up, you thought it was going to go in, and you were disappointed when it didn't. The thing that's impressive about him is he's one of these rare guys, and his shot form, it's so fluid and smooth and just textbook. He's one of those guys that can shoot as well off the dribble as he can off the catch and shoot, it appears to me like. From all the film clips I've seen, from watching him in the blue-white exhibition, he's one of these guys that I call, and there's not a whole lot of them, I call not necessarily a three-point shooter, but a three-point scorer. And a lot of his shots, most of his shots in that game were threes. It's going to be interesting to see how many twos he can get off once they play athletic teams. I think that there's no doubt that the move from Europe to the college level, the high level of the college game, the biggest transition is going to be how does he adapt to the athleticism. It's going to be much greater. But off the dribble, you put him in a ball screen, he puts all kinds of pressure because he can step back into the three. If you don't have a quick, just almost a switch, a hedge and recover, it's going to have to be perfect because he is a good passer out of that. If the roll comes, the big has to get back on him, and then you've got the back tag guys helping. He does a good job of seeing a skip. So he knows where everybody's at on the floor, and he's well-trained out of Europe. He has a good basketball IQ. But the thing is, he gets a big on him, unless it's a very confident big, unless it would be a Caleb Wilson or Jaron Stevenson, who are very confident guarding out on the floor. If you have to play off him at all as a guard, or you're not sure yourself and you're backing up, he'll set you right up into a step back. And a step back three to him is like a layup for you or me. And so he's got a scoring knack off the dribble with his three-point shot. That's impressive to me. Catch and shoot, absolutely. But he's a guy, like I said, who can create a three-point shot and make it off the dribble.
You mentioned the adjustment period, and to our understanding, there was an adjustment when he showed up that, okay, it's not just the athleticism, it's the length. with the athleticism as well and affecting shots. And it's something that he had to adjust to and might still be a part of the process, because even in open gym, even in practice, the intensity is going to be what it is, but it's going to elevate in a game. So those shots might become easier as he adapts once they get into the games. So he might be a different producer in January than he is in November, because he might still be in that process. When you look at a guy who's 6'6" and has a quick release, how much adjustment do you think it actually would take? Because the game is different, as you said, but man, he's 6'6". He's legit 6'6". And he's got a very quick release. It's not Brady Manic, but it's quick. So what would you expect that time period to be, that time frame to be, once they get into games and they're playing wings that guard at Kansas and Michigan State and Georgetown, Kentucky and Ohio State, all teams they play before Christmas?
Well, it's like you said, there are going to be growing pains. And, if you go back to the exhibition game, one of the first things I heard on the message board from North Carolina fans who watched it was, man, this was sloppy. And that's what you expect in an October exhibition. And I know that you said you really got to sit down and watch it thoroughly. And that's one thing that's going to stick out at you. There were a ton of turnovers all the way across the board. I mean, it looked a part of an October scrimmage that they've been practicing a couple of days. But he was probably more turnover prone than anybody. And you can watch a clip where he makes just a beautiful pass and a great read, and then another where there's nobody in the picture except the defensive guy he threw it to. And you're like, what are you watching here? What are we looking at? There was an open court dribble where he really wasn't contested and he lost the ball. So I think early on, when they play Kansas, when they play Michigan State, when they play Kentucky, there's going to be a learning curve with the athleticism, but I think it will get smaller with each game. And I agree with you, January, by the time they get in the ACC late December, they should be adapted to that. It's just going to take time. And, I go back and think, because, I coached at a small school, high school, and I know this when you'll see a reluctance by college coaches to recruit kids out of smaller public high schools who play in let's say a 2A or a 3A league compared to a 6A, just because of the athleticism part of it. So let's get that spit out. But the athleticism part of it, and they're just like, he's not used to playing against athletes. It's just going to take too long to make that adjustment. So there's a concern there. So, professionally in Europe is a much higher level, but and it's not going to take as long. But I expect there to be some early stumbles. But I think by the time, like you said, they get into the ACC, hopefully he's going to be a refined player.
He's a 3 in the landscape of this team. He could be a 2 as well, and he can dribble the ball a little bit, handle. He can maybe get the ball in a shot clock situation and create something for himself. But let's remember, in practice, he's got Jonathan Powell, who's north of 6'6", who's a damn good defender, graded out exceptionally well last year in Evan Maya. Seth Trimble, his defense is what it is. He's athletic, more athletic than Powell. So he's going to maybe be in the grill more. And then there's Jaron Stevenson, who can guard the 3, and that's one of the things Nate Oates had him doing at Alabama. You've got a 6'10", a 6'6", who's strong, and a 6'3", who's bouncy and is in your grill. He's been guarded by 3 very different types of guys a lot in practice, and I think that will speed up this process.
It will. It will. There's no doubt. And that's going to help. So that's another thing we talk about, the process getting expedited quicker, was because I go back to compare that to a kid who come out of a smaller level high school. And he didn't see that every day in practice. And whereas you take Luca coming in at North Carolina, like you said, he's gone up against that. I'll put it this way. I expect his adjustment to be a lot quicker this year than if he had been on the team last year. A totally different looking bunch defensively, of athleticism and linked out on the perimeter. So, yeah, you make a good point. And that's the whole thing of practice. I remember if you watch college football and keep up with it, DJ Lagway who was a really hot quarterback, for Florida, has the 5 interception game at LSU. And everybody's talking about what's going on with Lagway. I believe it was either 4 or 5, but it was horrible. What's the deal? What's going on with him? And I remember Greg McElroy got asked, and he said he's had a lot of injuries. He had preseason injury. He missed several weeks with his team. And he's a quarterback that's not had reps. So he gets an open date. They get 2 weeks of practice with his guys, and he shows up and plays Texas. He looks like a different guy. If you looked at material last week for Oklahoma against Texas, he'd had surgery. He'd had no reps. They just put him in, I think, basically without practice, and it looked like he and his wide receivers are 2 different playbooks. So I said that to say this. The reps count, and that's the whole deal. You'll hear NBA coaches say it all the time. We can't improve till we get a couple of days down and we get to practice. Just playing every night's not going to help us. So coaches are huge into that practice are where the improvements are made. Now, I think it's going to take some games against Kansas and Michigan State and Kentucky and people like that for him to get the full effect. But, I agree with you 100%. I think going up against those guys every day will have a huge impact. And it's going to help him be the guy he needs to be at North Carolina quicker.
You said he can create the shot on his own. He can catch and shoot. When you look at Carolina's distribution potential in the backcourt with Kyan Evans, Derek Dixon, and some of the other guys are going to be out there, do you envision this being a club that maybe runs stuff specifically to get him shots, or is this going to be a case where a lot of shots come on a swing pass or something like that? And I say that because I know Carolina fans hate when I do it, but I'm going to do it. I covered J.J. Redick at Duke. His last year in 2006, Greg Paulus as a freshman was his point guard. He led the ACC in assists because of swing passes to J.J. Redick, and J.J. knocked down the shots. Do you envision this being a set of – and they didn't set a ton of stuff up for J.J. because it would have been too obvious in how he was defended. So do you envision a lot of stuff being set up for Luka, or do you think a lot of his buckets are going to come on the ball swinging to him?
I remember a comparison once I heard years ago. Well, I would have had to hear it years ago because Dean Smith was still a coach at North Carolina. And they made a comparison between Coach K and Dean Smith. And he said it was interesting that Dean Smith was more of a liberal individual with liberal beliefs of people being able to do their own thing, but they were so much more structured offensively. Coach K was this conservative who was more rigid, but they had a lot of offensive freedom and never really ran many sets at Duke. And so there was that contrast. I just think they're different coaching styles. I think when I watched them last week or 2 weeks ago in exhibition, you never saw the ball get swung. And like you were saying, they played on one side of the floor. It might start at the top and then reverse it. And then really about the only thing they did was reset a ball screen. So it never got swung back and forth. So, and he still got off 11 shots, 11 threes. So we never got to see that. And I think that's probably I'm not going to say intentional, but I don't think the coaches had passed kidney stones about it over in the huddle when it came back because you don't want to see the opponents to see everything that you're going to do. And I think they're fine with that. So, but I do think what happens, the more the ball changes side to side and you make the defense move, the quicker you're going to get, the more, I shouldn't say quicker, the more you're going to get good looks on that second and third reversal. And that can be proven analytically. But if they don't run sets for him, they need to go to psychiatrist because, he's going to he should have all kind of sets coming off staggers, things like that. I expect all that to happen for him shooting that three. So I think you're going to see both.
Yeah. And I asked it, and I brought it up. Some people are going to wonder because we don't really know what Carolina has at point guard right now. I think a lot of people wait and see on Kyan Evans. He's a really good player, but is he a guy who's going to get that dude the ball where he needs it running that set? Derek Dixon's a freshman. We've heard nothing but really, really good things about him, but is he ready to be that guy at this level as well? And I use Paulus as an example. We all saw what Paulus's career was. His best assist year was his freshman year because he had JJ over there. I'm just kind of looking at ways that maybe Luka can either be enhanced or not so because of where the distribution comes from. And one of the things I've been told by somebody in the program is he said, hey, a couple of these two big guys may be in the top 4 in assists on this club. I'm speaking theoretically here, paraphrasing rather. And that is a concern because I don't know what Luka is outside of that shooter. When I was watching practice last week, I was so mesmerized and captivated by his jump shot that's all I wanted to see him do because it was so pretty. And I would imagine that if you can get that pretty shot off 10, 12 times a game, that's probably a winning way for Carolina. And so the whole question is, how do they go about it? I think you're right. Hubert did mention something about Luka coming off a bunch of staggers and stuff like that. The guys are going to have to sell to get him the ball at times, but I think he's going to be a good enough shooter, certainly when you hit January, that's going to be a very, very wise thing. And you have a lot of willing dudes to set those screens to get him those looks.
I think he's going to be, like I said, very tough to defend in ball screen action. You can't go under. If you've almost got to switch. If you hard hedge, then you're putting pressure on the defense to get back and recover on a roll. And then the timing's got to be perfect. I mean, you drag that big with you, he's eventually got to leave to get back to his guy. And your man, the original on-ball guard, better be there. Because I'm telling you, if he can see the rim, it's a good shot. And so it puts pressure on. You talk about the bigs. We talked about this off the air. It looked like North Carolina wanted to get into a little bit of zoom in exhibitions without showing it. The bigs, you've got 2 good ball handling bigs in Wilson and VSR. So you put them out front. You put a shooter in the corner. You put a shooter on the wing. You have the wing and zoom screen for that corner. He comes up to get the handoff. You're asking for a lot of switches right there. And you keep turning that over and over, and it's tough to guard. Hubert Davis has run zone before. But the thing was, he didn't necessarily have the bigs who could handle the ball. I mean, Armando Bacot out there handling the ball from a 5 spot out on the top of the key. He did a lot of good things, but that's probably not exactly where you want him. You want him ball screening more. Now you've got bigs who can initiate. I just think when I don't know what they'll do against BYU, they may hold all of this off till they play Kansas. But remember where you heard this. I would not be surprised if you don't see the 2 bigs doing a heck of a lot of initiating of the offense in a ball handling role from the top because they can both dribble it and they can both pass it. So, and I just think you can get guys into looks off that stuff. I've just seen a lot. This is the rage now, and I've seen a lot of good teams do this that get shots off with it.
You and I are going to do a podcast we're going to run here in the next several days about Henry Vesar and Caleb Wilson playing the high-low game and this. So we'll save a lot of that for that. But you're 100% right. I think there's some new tweaks to what Carolina does. Fans are going to see this year that they haven't seen previously. Staying on Luca as we finish out the Luca Bogavatz podcast. And if you do like this, by the way, go ahead and click like. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so now. And you will get updates. Hit the notification bell. You get updates every time we upload a video, which is often. And now the basketball's here. David and I are going to be hanging out a lot more together talking about the Tar Heels. Defensively, what can you gauge from film of him playing in the Adriatic League defensively?
That's the issue.
Yeah.
And I've always heard it said you are who you can guard. So if you say you're a 2 guard, you better be able to guard the 2. If you say you're a point guard, you better be able to guard the point. So to me, that's the bigger issue than him offensively. Is these quick guys Can he stay in front? I didn't see anything in the exhibition game that would make me say, no, that this is all about nothing. He can be, and we don't expect him to be a lockdown defender, but he did a lot of chasing. So the question is going to be when he plays these guys, can he stay in front? Because right now, to me, that's the question. What the biggest question mark I've got on this team on the perimeter. And because we know Seth Trimble can guard, I'm not sure about these other guys. I mean, we got to go into Cayenne Evans. He's quick. He's not the strongest guy. He's not the most physical guy. When we did film breakdowns on him, I thought his numbers were good analytically, but man, he had trouble. He had trouble negotiating ball screens defensively when he was the one getting hit. So how many guys can you have on the perimeter that's going to struggle? Now, hopefully this is not going to be an issue. The one advantage of this, if you do have a couple of guys like that on the floor, I don't back off. I get out. I get in guys. And here's where the length comes in. I get out in them. Guys can go by me. I'm just going to funnel them into the shot blockers. You've got Caleb Wilson and you've got Visar back there. Jaron Stevens, I think Jaden High can affect some shots. That's where all the length comes in on that back line because, okay, I'll let you go by me, but I'm going to sit on your back and I'm going to push you all the way into those guys. And now you've got to finish over them. If you had that issue last year, you'd have been dead in the water because they had no shot blockers. They had nobody could adjust shots. So that's where the length, I think, can really help in this situation. If he does have trouble staying in front of people, fine. Don't back off. Don't play soft. Get out in them and push them into the bigs.
So Luka could be a more palatable defensive player because of what they have behind him, essentially. That's what you're saying.
Yes. It's
so therefore, Hubert can sell out for a little bit of the lockdown, sort of trade out a little lockdown for an assassin.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you see these assassins do so. I'm going to use your word. You see these guys do so well on athletic teams. A lot of these athletic teams, they always have these guards or some guy on the perimeter that may not be the most athletic guy, but he fits in just fine, or lengthy teams.
Yeah.
I think so. I had a football coach tell me last week, a high school football coach, and he was telling me speed masks a lot of weaknesses. And I'm not saying and I've got to see him first before I say it's a weakness. But if he does have trouble on that end of the floor, in this case, height and length on the back, I think will mask some things. It normally does. You have to have that to have a good defensive team. Now, if you've got all these guys who are water bugs out front, and they can get up under you, man, they're cat quick, and they can lock down guys, and then you've got all that length on the back, then you've got Houston, or somebody like that. You've got old school Georgetown. You've got an elite historical defense. But if you could still have a good defense with this kind of makeup, if that's the way it turns out to be.
Yeah, I think your old school Georgetown reference is spot on with that. A lot of coaches will tell you, height and length don't take days off.
You can't coach it. That's something you can't develop. You've either got it or you don't.
Luca Bogavatz, I think we all cannot wait to see what he does. I'll be in Salt Lake City next week. Obviously, the Caleb Wilson, AJ DeBansa hysteria will be front and center. But I am so excited to get a firsthand look at all of these guys. And I'm going to look closely at Luka, how he handles the athleticism and the length of BYU, and also playing with guys who have that as well. That is also part of his adjustment period. He's David Sisk.
Andrew, I'll say this, I'm sorry. It'll be a good test because according to a lot of the analytics people with their preseason rankings, if they hold true to form, which they normally don't, but let's say they did, BYU would be, according to some, maybe the highest ranked team to play all year, even more so than Duke on a couple. So it's going to be interesting.
And we're going to do a pod on this later, but this is why I love Hubert playing this game on the road. I love them playing it in Memphis last year. There's no point in playing it at home. Play these games on the road. Get yourself ready, especially with a club that's going to travel together really for the first time other than their Outer Banks thing. I guess they're going to be in Asheville this weekend. But anyhow, he's David. I'm AJ. We got a lot more coming for you between now and November 3rd. And then, of course, afterward, once the season kicks off. Thanks for stopping by.